Why was Roger Troutman and Zapp so popular in Los Angeles? The Troutman brothers and other musicians comprised the Dayton, Ohio-based 80s funk band Zapp. Led by Roger Troutman, the band produced an eclectic, synthesized, soulful funk sound that made a tremendous impact on music in the 1980s. Roger and Zapp had 8 top 10 R&B hits in total, the 3 biggest ones being Dance Floor Part 1, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, and I Want to Be Your Man. All 3 of these songs reached number 1 on the R&B charts in the 80s. Roger and Zapp's music had people getting down all over dance floors throughout the US and beyond. However, the band's music influenced many artists who came out after their peak. In fact, Roger and Zapp clearly influenced the Teddy Riley-led New Jack Swing movement of the late 80s and early 90s, whose sound was primarily employed by artists from the East Coast. With that said, arguably Roger and Zapp's strongest level of popularity was in Southern California. But why? Well, the roots of Roger and Zapp's connection to Southern California was the popularity of the band's breakthrough 1980 hit, More Bounce to the Ounce. More Bounce to the Ounce spent 2 weeks at number 2 on the R&B charts in November of 1980. The hit song, Tailor-Made for the Dance Floor, was the lead-off single from the band's self-titled debut album, which spent 2 weeks at number 1 on the R&B albums chart. Here's what Gene Sculatti of the Los Angeles Times wrote about Roger and Zapp 4 days before Christmas of 1980. Zapp takes a funky bounce. I've been a self-supporting musician for 20 years, and I'm only in my late 20s now, said Roger Troutman, whose group Zapp, which has scored number 1 R&B hits with a single, More Bounce to the Ounce, and is a Zapp LP, seems more like an overnight sensation. The truth is, Troutman, with brothers Larry, Lester, and Terry, and fellow musicians Greg Jackson, Bobby Glover, Eddie Barber, and Jerome Derrickson, have been at it a long time. The Ohio group has performed for a while under the name Roger's Human Body in every state of the nation except Iowa. The band was nicknamed after brother Terry, who was nicknamed Zapp by their mother. She had 11 kids, he laughed, and I guess she just ran out of names. Last year they played some 300 dates, many times opening for George Clinton's Parliament Funkadelic. So how come it took so long to make a first record? I've been offered opportunities to record before, said Troutman, but nobody but George Clinton offered me the chance to do what I wanted in the studio without stipulations as to how I should do it. Writer-guitarist Troutman cut More Bounce to the Ounce in Detroit with Clinton stablemate Bootsy Collins. The record's appeal lies not only in its elastic funk rhythm, but its vocals, delivered electronically through a distorting device known as a talk box. Troutman's use of the gimmicky but effective instrument came as a response to those who've misused the talk box in the past. I don't like mediocre presentations. I won't name any names, Troutman explains, but I just got tired of hearing people use the box badly and get hits. I spent 7 to 10 hours a day learning to articulate through it. It works well enough that Troutman now even uses it when he does radio interviews. Troutman's high standards don't stop with the music. Zapp manages it itself, books concerts, and handles its own PR. Good businessmen do most things for themselves, Troutman believes. Lots of professionals, surgeons for instance, handle their own affairs, and they're dealing with matters a lot more important than entertainment. So why shouldn't we manage our affairs? Okay, so here's a concert review written in the LA Times about a Roger Zapp show in 1993, which highlights the band's popularity in Cali. Zapp's exuberance overcomes Gimmicks. There was more bounce to the oeuvre on Friday as Zapp zoomed into the Celebrity Theater for what seemed like a zillion times. The long-lived band from Dayton, Ohio, unwrapped pretty much the same box of funk confections as ever, including its 1980 breakthrough hit, More Bounce to the Ounce. An ounce is about the sum total of the weight and substance of Zapp's stage repertoire, but the band played with the exuberance and skill that can make a Zapp show seem like a rip-roaring party teetering on the edge of heady chaos, even though it actually is one of the most gimmicky and choreographed hours of pop programming extant. The new element that made this show a little sweeter than the good ones it had played in the past and that gave some underlining substance to its diet of dance-happy fluff was the concert's subtext. Hard work and devotion to craft do pay. Band leader Roger Troutman and the rest of his crew have been playing the Southern California market steadily for years, whether they had a hot record or not. Now their new compilation, Zapp and Roger All the Greatest Hits, is one of the top 10 sellers in the region. Rewarded with a near-capacity crowd, Zapp and Roger paid back their young audience with a flawless funk party. By the way, the Greatest Hits album mentioned in the article peaked at number 9 on the R&B albums chart, impressive for a Greatest Hits project. The album spent 103 weeks on the R&B albums chart and was certified platinum in May of 1996. Sadly, Roger Troutman died in 1999. The funk master was tragically shot and killed by his brother Larry, a member of Zapp, who then killed himself. Here's the obituary John Thurber of the LA Times wrote in celebration of Roger's life and music and its impact on LA culture. Roger Troutman, a singer, musician, bandleader, and producer who was an influential presence in the world of funk music, has died. The 47-year-old Troutman died Sunday at a hospital in Dayton, Ohio, of gunshot wounds in what police were investigating as a murder-suicide. Troutman's 54-year-old brother Larry was found a short time later with a fatal bullet wound to the head. Initial police reports indicated that Larry Troutman shot his brother and then killed himself. The Troutmans are survived by their mother, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters. As the leader of the group Roger and Zapp, or Zapp and Roger depending on the CD, Troutman was extremely influential to a generation of funk and rap artists in the 1980s. His band electric, high-energy performances at clubs and dance halls throughout the country was punctuated by the sound of lyrics running through a talk box, which effectively synthesized his voice in a variety of ways. He recalled that around the time his band was getting started, Star Wars was in the public consciousness. Darth Vader was very popular, Troutman said, and his voice had a robot-like sound to it. The robot-like sound in Troutman's Talkbox dance track sound evolved to the point that one writer, Steve Pick of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, said it resembled an old science fiction computer on helium. Pitt's interesting image was an apt description for Troutman's music, which grew in popularity through the 1980s. The computer sound on top of a funky groove along with the talkbox was specifically Troutman's. The most important thing Troutman told a Times reporter in 1997 was that before we had any hit records, we performed live literally every night of the week, and we had to keep people dancing all night long. I really got a feel for what would make people get up and move, Troutman added, and right at the height of that is when I went into the studio for the first time. First time in the studio, first record, and first hit. That first album for Warner Brothers, Zapp, in 1980, yielded the hit More Bounce to the Ounce, Part 1, and launched Troutman's career. It also brought a new name to the band, Zapp, which had started out as Roger and the Human Body. In 1975, in his hometown of Hamilton, a working-class town in western Ohio, the band, with Troutman on vocals and guitar, Lester Troutman on drums, Terry Troutman on bass, and Larry Troutman on congos, came to the attention of the funk meister George Clinton of the Parliament Funkadelic fame, who helped them get the Warner Brothers deal. Troutman's songs had an impact on the street. More Bounce to the Ounce Part 1, for example, hooked into the lowrider car culture. The song became something of a soundtrack for a bouncing lowrider. The rhythms of the music matched the bounce of the car. Troutman's career continued to take divergent paths over the years. He did the music for the 1996 film A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, and his songs showed up regularly in films like Boys in the Hood, a LA-based movie, Menace to Society, another LA-based movie, and Selena. He was also a successful producer, working with such artists as H-Town, Dr. Dre, and Tupac Shakur. Troutman said he was devastated by the shooting death of Shakur in 1996. He was so creative in the studio, very lyrical, like a poet, Troutman said. What a great loss. True words indeed. Tragically, the music world experienced another great loss when Roger Troutman was killed. Roger Troutman and Zapp are deservedly celebrated, yet I still feel they're somewhat underrated. They're one of the premier bands in the history of funk. Their influence on 90s and 2000s R&B and rap music, particularly West Coast hip-hop, are undeniable and striking. Roger and Zapp's long-lasting legacy is arguably more impactful and influential than several other bands and groups of this era and earlier, who had more hits and bigger hits and deeper catalogs. Considering all of the love that California gave Roger and Zapp, it was quite fitting for the titan of the talk box, Roger Troutman, to be prominently featured on one of the biggest tribute songs to the Golden State, California Love by Tupac and Dr. Dre. So what's your favorite Roger or Zapp record? My personal favorite is their futuristic funk ballad, Computer Love. Make sure you hit the like button, and I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Much appreciated. Here at Soulful Charts, we got the receipts. Thanks for joining me. Peace.